Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Femme Force Podcast. My name is Rachel Pascan, and I am your host. And today I am joined with my friend Charlotte, who I actually met in Laos, of all places, on a group tour. She is originally from Reunion, which we are going to talk about a little bit, and now she lives in Paris and has had quite the global journey working around the globe, working in nonprofits, working in NGOs. And so, thank you for being here, Charlotte. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rachel.
So, can you tell the listeners just a little bit about your background coming from Reunion and then where you ended up in Cambodia and your journey there?
hmm So, yeah, I grew up in Reunion, but I'm originally from Mauritius and I was born in the UK. That's why I have a British accent. So growing up in Reunion Island was amazing, growing up on an island in the middle of the Indian Ocean. So I did my studies there, and then I did some studies in Paris as well. I did my master's degree. And then I've always been passionate about humanitarian aid, injustice, and social equality. So for me, it was really important to work in international relations. So that's what I did. And I ended up in Cambodia for 2 years as a communications officer in a small NGO called Krusat May, which means new family in Cambodian. So it's for child protection, especially street children, also for children in that have that are disabled. So trying to get them into school, into society, into work. So I worked there for 2 years, and it was amazing. And I ended up traveling around Southeast Asia, where I met Rachel on a trip. And yeah, that's how we met. I'm so grateful. And we even met up in Paris last year. So
Yes.
the world is small.
I know. And how did you end up in Paris again?
Work-wise, because I speak French, and all the NGO headquarters, well, French speaking ones are based in Paris. So I thought this is the place to be. And I ended up working for a small NGO called Résonance Humanitaire. Basically, it's like an NGO that helps humanitarian aid workers find work back in France.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. And do you miss like working with the kids and being around that and or are you more into the corporate structure to be able to, expand and help multiple NGOs?
I like both, but I do miss working in the field because you can actually see what you're working for and the actual impact of activities, of funding, of projects. And you see the communities actually grow. And working with local people also definitely changes from working in a building behind a computer, 9 to 5. So, and it's so much more like spontaneous and more, and it's culturally challenging as well, like
I can
living and
imagine.
working in a foreign country, learning the language, making friends. It's such a richer experience than working in an office at headquarters. So I do miss it a bit.
No, I can imagine that. And I mean, coming from such a small island as Reunion, do you feel like that helped you in your career, being around like locals mostly? I mean, it would love for it to be a large tourist destination, but it's getting there compared to like being in Paris.
Yeah, it did help a lot because being well, I'm of Creole descent, so I learned to speak the language pretty quick as at the same time I was learning French. So for me, it was important to integrate, and because I look Creole, it
Yes.
helped a lot to integrate and adapt. And also Reunion's very known to be very multicultural. So there are people because it was French and then it was English, it was Dutch at some point, but mostly French. And today it's an overseas French department. And so there are many communities that are from Africa, from India, from Asia, from Madagascar. So it's very mixed. And I think it's pretty unique place in the world because
Yeah.
communities don't stay apart, they actually mix. Like it's normal for someone to have two religions. I mean, I've never seen that anywhere else.
No,
Like I
not
have
at
a
all.
friend who's his family's from India, but they grew up in Reunion, so they're Christian, but they'll go to church Sunday morning and then Sunday afternoon they'll go to the Hindu temple. So
Wow.
yeah,
I
and I
mean, that's
think
so
growing
accepting. That's so cool.
it's so tolerant, and I think growing up in that kind of that society, it helped me to be very open-minded and be able to integrate anywhere. And there's not much that surprises me now.
No, but I would also think it showed you that it's possible. So when you
Yeah,
go to other places in the world and you're like, well, we do it, why can't you do this? Like we're accepting of all these different people. It's not that hard to
yeah,
accept people for
yeah,
what they are and what they want to believe in or what they like, what they do.
exactly. I think that helps me connect on a more like human base as well. Like working with other people, I don't have any trouble with that. I respect other people's religions, belief systems. But I know that it's different elsewhere. And I think it may have been a culture shock when I left Reunion for Paris.
Yeah.
But still, Paris is very cosmopolitan, so there's that. And Asia is pretty tolerant place as well in some countries.
Yeah, no, I mean they're getting there. Everybody, I feel like I'm saying that for every country. I'm like, they're getting there. We're all getting there. We're working on it here in America. We're trying very hard. It's just not
Yeah.
not always not always happening. Do you feel like the opportunities have been different for you from like being in Reunion to then being in Cambodia and now Paris, career-wise?
Well, Reunion is very small. So most students after their A levels, so around after 18, everyone leaves for uni. Because there's only two universities in Reunion, one in the north, one in the south. Population 850,000. So most students leave for their master's degrees or any uh, type of for higher education. So yeah, there's not many opportunities for like studies, and I wouldn't go back to work because for me, there's not enough going on
Yeah,
in terms of international NGOs. They have a lot of local associations, but there's not there's not that much need. So I'd rather work in Paris or maybe go back to Asia. Paris, there's a lot of opportunities, but there's also a lot of people. So, and a lot of qualified people, young
people.
people. So the market is pretty saturated.
I mean, I can
But
imagine this generation's very, I mean, the work that everyone's trying to do to make the world a better place. So I can only imagine, especially in Paris when you have the French government backing you and you have those government standards, so you can actually like live there and live well. So a little bit different. I met you
yeah.
when you were living and working in Cambodia. You were getting ready to move to Paris, though. What was the most memorable thing with helping these children? I thought it was so interesting when I met you that there's actually organizations out there that are
Mhm.
helping these children that you see on the street that are like begging you for money or like being sent out by their parents to bring in some kind of funds. Like, what was that like? And what was like a memorable moment that you had doing that for 2 years?
I'd say we celebrated the NGO's 30th anniversary,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was during COVID times. It was 2022, but for them, they COVID hit a year later than the rest of the world, so they were still very cautious. And I remember that there was about maybe 60 kids, 40 members of staff, so about 100 in total. And we had to like all do a test to say in the morning just to be sure that everyone was okay.
Yeah,
And I think that event was what it was at the end of my 2 years. And for me, it was such a great moment of like communion and just celebration and seeing these kids, like seeing all the hardships they've gone through and seeing them happy and smiling and jumping around and dancing. For me, that was like amazing. I thought, like, if you kids can get up from that, if you can be so resilient, then I think it helps us also to realize how privileged we are and how grateful we should be.
exactly. And what happens? So does someone report that they're on the street and you go to them, or that you as an individual finds them, and then what happens with them?
Um, Usually they're basically NGOs work in like networks. So they have like a child safety network. So when a child can be referred to an association or an NGO, and then the NGOs will refer to other NGOs based on the specialties.
Mm.
For example, our NGO was based like we focused on family integration, which meaning we tried to find the child's family. So we'd work on their situation, their family situation, if they have any relatives, if they have any anyone that looks after them, and then we try and support the family because if the children are not at school and they're in the streets, it's for a reason. Maybe the
Um,
family can't survive. They don't have enough money, so they need the kids to work. So by supporting the family, we're tackling the root problem. So we help them maybe to start a small business, maybe like
okay.
selling fruit and veg, or raising chickens, or any small thing that that we support them with, or that we provide them with funds. And we help them with the kids' school fees, with their uniforms, with food. And so that's trying to get the kids from the street back at home and staying at home and going to school. And for the ones that we find out that they've been maybe abused or they're not safe, we refer them to, we had things we called family homes
Okay.
and family centers, protection centers. So they're like orphanages, but these kids, most of them have relatives. So relatives can visit, and in the meanwhile, we have social workers working with the families to try and improve their situation so their children can come home. So it's really a community-based effort. And in the NGO, it's like 90% Cambodians, and the message is Cambodians helping Cambodians. It's an
That's
NGO
amazing.
it's a local NGO, even though it was founded by a Frenchman back in the day. But now it's really helping each other, like to build a better future for the kids.
That's amazing. I mean, you should be really proud of the work you're doing. I can only imagine. And I mean, I was there and I saw it, and it's a phenomenal country. And to know that they're there to help their countrymen, like that's something that the rest of the world should definitely be taking into consideration of how to treat others.
Hmm.
So when
Definitely.
you went to Paris, I mean, you went from Reunion to Cambodia, I mean, Southeast Asia, to Paris, one of the largest metropolitan areas in the world. What was that like? Was it a culture shock? I mean, I know you went to university out there, but to then go and live and be an adult and be in that kind of culture, especially in the era that we're in Paris, like
Yeah.
very heavily in the news and politics. The Olympics were
Mhm.
just there.
Mhm.
Everyone loves Paris. What was that like?
Everyone loves Paris, and I think today the last season, well, the fourth season of Emily in Paris has just come out,
Yes.
but that's not the Paris I know.
Oh, no.
And
None of us know that Paris.
yeah, except when you're a tourist and you only visit those kind of places, maybe.
Yeah.
But you just take the metro and that's it.
Right, 1,000% all the time.
No, for me, as a student, it was a lot different because I lived on the international campus. So I was surrounded by international people all the time, and we were all students, so we were all on the same page. Living and working and being independent is something else entirely. So I took quite a while to actually find accommodation when I came back. It
Not
took me a
easy
month and a half. Yeah.
out in
There were
Paris.
lots of available places, but if you don't have a fixed term, like not what's it called in English? If you don't have a job, that's not
Salary
a fixed,
based, yeah.
yeah, it's salary based. You have to have at least three times the rent,
Mhm.
three times the rent, and you have to have at least two people backing you just in case. So as I was just starting a new job, for them I was
Yeah,
unstable, and I didn't have any older paychecks because I was in Cambodia on
yeah,
voluntary work. So a lot of people said no. And I managed to find a place for young workers under
which is so
32.
nice.
Yeah. So there are a lot of there's lots of social housing in France. So I'm lucky that the government actually does help young people and people with lower incomes. So yeah, I found a place, starting my job, and yeah, it was a culture shock because realizing um people aren't so open in Paris. Everyone's just rushing around.
Mhm.
People get angry really quick and very
Yes.
irritable. especially in the cold weather, because it was also a temperature shock going from
Oh yeah,
35 degrees
mm,
to 10. I think it was
yeah.
about 10 in March 2023. So yeah, getting used to the cold again was definitely a challenge. And I think the cold just makes people not want to hang around and chat, and everyone's stressed out all the time. It's a stressful city. Not in the summer, but the rest of the year.
Oh, they're out of office all of August, so they don't need to be stressed
Yeah.
in the summer. They're
Yeah.
out of office, as we like to say. So they're doing their thing. Do you feel
Yeah.
like you were accepted coming into this like large metropolitan, especially did it help that you spoke French? I feel like for those that don't, it must be uh, infinitely daunting as an
Mm,
expat to try to get
mm.
in with the French crowd, to fix anything, to find an apartment, things like that.
Yeah, definitely. Because I didn't have French nationality back then. So people would see that I was from Reunion Island, and a lot of French people in mainland France, don't really know their geography, and they
Mm.
think it's like a foreign country, and so they're surprised that we actually speak French. So most of the time, like they're like, "Oh wow, you speak really good French." I'm like, "Yeah, thank you."
I grew up there. I
Yeah,
speak.
exactly. So yeah, it does help speaking French because I noticed when you're a tourist and you approach a French person and you're hesitant, they'll just get really impatient and like wave you away, or they'll be really distrusting. So yeah, I think it can be difficult if you don't speak the language because French people have no patience, and it's there's a saying, quand on est en France, on parle français. When you're in France, you speak French, and that's
Yes.
it.
But and then you try and they're like, I speak English. I'm like, come on. It's not that bad. I know it's not great, but it's not my French isn't that bad when I'm in it. Like, just
Yeah,
help me out. It helps
yeah.
to practice. Speak to me. That's how you have to get through this. No, it's a
Mm.
totally, totally different world. And I feel like going from a small or smaller country into France, has it been a different social life for you? Are there like more opportunities? Like, is dating a
Mm.
whole new ball game there?
Oh wow. Dating. Opportunities. I'd say yes, there's so many things to do in Paris. Like there's things happening all the time everywhere. So if you do want to go out, there's always something going on,
Yeah.
whether it's in art or the cinema or in the bars, in the clubs. There's things going on all the time. And that this year has been exceptional with the Olympics, which
Yeah.
I actually I flew the coop for that.
As did a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, because we all thought it's gonna be a nightmare. Like public transport is
Mhm.
already a nightmare, and just with the heat and the extra millions of tourists, we were like, no. So a lot of people left, and it was actually pretty calm, and things went well. And
Oh,
in regards of dating, yeah, because I'm single, and I've been single for 2 years now, and I really thought, yeah, I'm in Paris. Single and ready to mingle.
we always. Yeah.
Yeah. So Paris, there's a lot of people, and I've been on a few dating apps. I actually wrote a thesis on dating apps in France compared to dating apps
Oh,
in China. Yeah, a few years ago. And in France, there's so many people on the apps. There's so many different
mhm.
apps. There's even apps for for how to cheat on your wife or your husband.
Ashley
Yeah.
Madison. We had that here. Great documentary. If you're going to look it up, it's on Netflix. It was excellent.
Noted. Yeah, so there's a lot of choice, but it's like sifting through it takes a while, and I'm very particular about who I date, and I can take ages to like actually swipe like right. And I dated a few people last year, but I think there's a kind of dating fatigue we're hearing about a lot. So
Yeah.
it's real, it's real. So we meet up 1, 2, 3 dates, and even after the third date, we're like, should we meet again? And like, maybe we'll see. And things just sizzle out.
Yeah, it's
And
exhausting.
it's exhausting, like meeting another new person, especially online. So it's the same questions all the time.
It's a
Like,
job
what do you
interview
do? It is. Yeah. What do
every
you
time.
do? What do you
What do you
like
like
to do in
to
your free
do?
time? Do you like to
Mm,
travel? What did you study?
tell me about your
Yeah.
family. Like, where do you live? Like, all just, it's a job interview and you have to
Yeah.
over and over and over again. And it's
Mhm.
exhausting.
Yeah. I don't know if do you know the application called Hinge?
Yep, we've got that here. We're on that.
Yeah. 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 Well, I thought Hinge is pretty different. Like it's one of the most advanced, I'd say,
Yeah.
in terms of criteria and the way it's expression.
Mhm.
So I really like that app, but I kind of like I pause and unpause my profile like every other month.
I just
So
forget about it. I
yeah.
literally forget that it's there. The point that my therapist is like, you need to put a reminder on your calendar, check dating apps. So now I have a daily reminder in my task, check dating apps, because I'm like, I just like forget. And I'm
Did
also like,
you?
if you only have 24 hours in a day, that's
Yeah.
not that much. And everyone, I can't buy more, I can't barter more, like can't wish more, 24 hours. So when you're
Mm,
so busy, I feel like as our generation and age gaps are, we're doing something. We've got social lives, work, school,
mm,
whatever we're doing. I'm always like, do I want to take the 2 hours plus getting ready, girl problems, to go on a possible waste of 3 hours? Or would I rather go and like hang with friends where I'm guaranteed I'm going to enjoy my time? Where's
yeah.
the value? And like, that's my biggest issue with dating because I'm like, such a time suck. I'm like, I just
Yeah.
want it to be like can't it just like the DoorDash guy, can't they just knock and be like, be here? Isn't that possible?
Or we just cook them up, like just put
A
all the
lit
ingredients we want and just
I mean,
yeah.
my psychic tells me to do that. He's like, write it down, manifest it. And I'm like, I don't know like where you He's like, that's how I found my man. I'm like, I love that for you, Czar, but some of us
Yeah.
are like
Yeah.
not lighting the candle and like, I mean, I want Captain America. He just got married, so he's not coming to my door anytime soon. So I don't know how that's really going to work.
Well, I mean, you could get a divorce.
I could. I mean, I could get a divorce. I mean, there's
Yeah.
hope. He did marry a very young girl.
Yeah. Maybe
Hope's
he'd be
out
like
there.
Leo after she's reached a certain age. She's like, next.
Nope. Yeah, that would it. I'd be there for that too. I really would. I mean, it's been a journey. I mean, it's a journey, and I can only imagine
Mm.
going from like reunion to Paris. Do you feel like the men in Paris, do they know where reunion is? That would be my first question. I'd be like, do you not know where this is on a map? This
For
isn't
me,
gonna
that
work.
would be a definite like next. Like
Yeah.
if you can't even, you don't have to place it on a map, but if you don't even know which ocean it's in, because French people always think Reunion Island is in the French Caribbean,
And you're like, no,
next
that's not
to Martinique and
unique.
Guadeloupe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, come on, there's like 10 overseas departments. Like, come on.
You're like, no, this isn't gonna
But,
work. Do you feel
yeah,
like it's a lot of French people or I mean, I feel like there's a lot of expats.
there
Do you
are, there
find
are.
them on the apps?
Actually, I've never dated like expats. I don't know why. I just kind of, well, actually, yeah, I did. There was a person I dated. She was actually American.
Okay. And you were like, hi, do you
Yeah,
know where it
yeah.
is on a map? She's like,
She,
yes.
I can't remember if she did actually, but I did. I wasn't gonna be mad about it because like she's from the States, so
Yeah.
I was
Oh no,
fine.
if I asked people to point reunion, I don't even know what they would do. Like I
They'd be
really
like
don't. It's going to
reunion.
be
What
interesting
kind of
for
name
the
is it?
listeners. I feel like a lot of them are going to be Google mapping, which is fine, guys.
Good.
Once you know, then you know.
Yeah,
Like take a look at the map and like check it
there's so
out.
much to do there. I think everyone probably knows or has heard of Mauritius.
I was
It's
just, yeah, I
right
was there
next
in
door.
March. I know. And I'm like, I've been like next time bopping right over. And Mauritius was
It's the
stunning.
island next door. It's like half an hour flight from
Yeah.
Mauritius to Reunion. Yeah.
No, and they're beautiful. The food's amazing. Like
Mm.
it was such a great experience. And I was like, I have to go to reunion, but I also need to wait for Charlotte to like be there. I'm like, I'm gonna need a tour guide. I'm like, can't go to her home and like not have her there. Do you get to
Mm.
go home often?
I try once a year,
Mhm.
but
That's a
lately
long
it's been
flight.
more like once every 2 years. So yeah, I do miss it. But I'm going home next week, so I'm very
It's so
happy.
exciting. How long are you going to go
Yeah.
home for?
I actually took a one-way ticket
Okay, get
because
it, girl.
I quit my job last month, so
Yeah,
I'm taking time for me, taking time out, and I'm gonna go home to like just breathe and sleep and just be in my own environment, see my
yeah.
family, go to the beach, go in the
Spend the time.
mountains, yeah, go check out the volcano. So yeah, I've got a lot of things on my list, but mostly rest and figuring out what's next.
I mean, that's important. I feel like so many people just hop from like one to the next, and then you're
Mm,
just like stressed out all the time, like to actually like enjoy life a little bit. Like it was lovely when I met you in Laos and you were like, I'm finishing
yeah.
up and now I'm traveling and I'm taking time for me. Like that's
Hmm.
something people don't do enough, I feel like.
Yeah, I understand that some people have like financial
1,000%.
obligations, and I understand. So, but I'm lucky in France that we have unemployment benefits. I don't plan to be getting them for long because I will get bored after a while.
Yeah.
But 2, 3 months off, I think it can do a world of good and can actually make you like think about what you really want and write it down or just make a mental list, whatever works for you. And so my next step, whatever it is, has to be better than the last. So
Yeah. Do
yeah.
you have an idea of like what you want to, is there like a certain NGO, your like dream one you want to work at or?
Um, Not really because, well, my dream one was UNICEF at some point,
Okay.
working for the United Nations. Like
Yeah.
first time I went to New York, I went to visit for the headquarters, and
Yep.
it just felt so exciting to be there. So for me, I think one day I would like to work for the UN, but doing something impactful that I can actually measure and see for myself. Because I'm also scared of working in such a big institution because
Yeah.
it's so big, and it can be very far from the field, but we'll
I
see.
mean, but it's global and like
Yeah.
they're the ones that, you hear like they're
Mm,
sending in the UN, we're making a vote, we're doing different things. And the headquarters are phenomenal in New York. If anybody
yeah.
ever gets to go, it's like Midtown East and
Mhm.
they're huge. And just the discussions that happen there, like you get to
Yeah.
be in the mix of those. And I think that's really amazing and really powerful also.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons I came back to Paris to be part of the conversation again.
Mhm.
Because Cambodia was fun. I mean, fun. It was also
Beautiful.
it was beautiful. It was hard, like because it's one
Yep.
of the poorest countries in Southeast
Yeah.
Asia. But also I had a pretty nice life there, but I felt like I wasn't intellectually stimulated. So for me, it was important to come back to Paris as well because this is where there's lots of you can go to conferences, there's
Yeah.
exhibitions,
Well, the discussions
the
there, right?
discussions, yeah, yeah, the world forums, and yeah. So for me, this is the place to be for work. Yeah.
No, and I get that. And I mean, I think the work you did in Cambodia, though, was so impactful. When I heard about this, I didn't even know that there were NGOs doing this out there. And I
Hmm.
was like, this is amazing. Like when you travel and you go to certain countries in Southeast Asia, India, like Africa, and you see these children, you're just like, they're children. And like
Mm,
that's where it like I feel like for a lot of adults and like expats and foreigners, like that's where it hits you. It's the children. You're like,
yeah.
what
Mm,
how many options do they really have? Like they're
yeah.
children.
But I think it was amazing. Like actually, I learned Cambodian to because I had to do a lot of interviews for the
Mhm.
the kids for their testimonies for
Yeah.
the donors, like in the reports.
Yeah.
And for me, it was important to be able to ask the questions in Cambodian so that they'd understand
Yeah.
and so that I could understand their response. So I'd learn like basic questions like, "What's your favorite subject at school? What do you want to do when you're older?" And a lot of them would say, "Oh, I want to be a pilot. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a policeman." And I thought these kids have dreams, they know what they want to do. And I know we all do it when we're little. We all have
Mhm.
some idea when we're like
Well, they're not
6 or 7.
inhibited by the
Yeah,
world around them.
by the
They're like,
world.
Everybody else does it. Why can't I?" Like they
Yeah,
don't have
yeah,
this imposter syndrome and these different
exactly.
difficulties hitting them. I mean, they're also not technically paying bills or doing that kind of stuff or like worrying about getting into college yet, but
Yeah. Mm,
they have they've no obstacles in their mind because like money's not going to stop them. They don't understand that concept. And it's
yeah,
beautiful to
exactly.
see that children have that
Mm,
openness and
yeah.
desire.
Especially when these kids have been like begging on the streets and they still dream of a future where they're earning their own money and they've made their own place in society. So I think it's their resilience as well, coming from their situations, that they still dream. And I think that's a lesson for us adults.
1,000%. It really reminds me of Le Petit Prince and like how you view the world. The Little Prince
Mhm.
by Saint-Exupéry,
Oh
like
yeah.
how you view the
Yeah,
world. And like you sit there and you look at it like that, and you're like, it's different than what you actually, I know, I've got like 5 copies. I love this book. I give it to so many people. I bought it for
it's
my
amazing.
niece in
Mm.
English because she's from America. And I was like, "Hey, one day I'm going to get this for you in French." I'm like, this is a beautiful, she's only 2, so there's no way she's going to grasp it yet. But I'm like, it's a beautiful story how adults like don't grow
Mm.
up, like keep a little bit of these qualities that we have.
Yeah. Inner
Like if look at
child.
the
Mm.
yeah, look at the world like a child. Like there's opportunities. Like not everything is it doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have like you can make something out of it. And I think that's so beautiful. And we have to remember that children are the future. It's such a,
Mm.
I mean, we're only around for so long,
Yeah. You only live once. Mm.
literally. Well, to end the podcast, I like to ask one final question to all of my guests. So, if you could give your 16-year-old self one piece of advice, what would that be?
Mm. 16.
I know different people.
What would I say? I think it would be to, maybe I should have thought this before. Um,
You're fine.
I
This
think
is the
it,
tough one.
I think it would be something along the lines of like keep reaching higher despite whatever obstacles come your way. Even if you have to lie down for a minute, don't give up. Like just keep going, keep reaching higher because you never know. You might hit a star.
That is so beautiful. That's going to be in the next, if we ever do a Little Prince 2. That's beautiful. I love that advice. And I think that a lot of people are going to be able to take that and listen to it. Thank
Great.
you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And it was so wonderful getting to know you and about your journey and about the world that you've helped change a little bit. And we appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Hope to see you soon in Paris.
Soon. All right. Bye, everyone.